Welcome to episode 184 of the Board Game BBQ podcast. I am joined to... I'll start introducing myself first. I am Adrian, your host, and I am joined by my friends, one down in Warrnambool. How are we doing, Connor?
Good, thanks, Adrian. What about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Incredibly busy.
You know what?
Really good.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that you're good.
Good. I thought you were going to say you loved hearing me busy, but that's fine.
Well, if that's what you like to do, then
It's just as true. And I'm also joined by Mitch down in Sydney. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling a little anxious about whether or not we're going to get through this episode.
Yes, this would be. Well, it's taken us 35 or 45 minutes to start, and we said, we'll start early. And then we just talked rubbish for 45 minutes. So,
yeah, we've just come out of a 10-minute laughing fit.
Yeah,
for those of us that didn't get recorded. But hey,
but then even if what we talked about, no one would think it's funny. It's just one of those situations where it's funny to us three, but everything else is just that wasn't funny at all, guys. Grow up.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly like the last year's awards ceremony. I couldn't stop laughing, and once I start, if I look at the person that made me laugh with a thought, it just all comes flooding back, and I just keep laughing again. So, I had to walk out of the room, left the room for 10 minutes, calmed myself down, was completely in the zone, walked back in, saw Mitch, and just died, and walked straight back out and laughed. I just couldn't stop. So, but yeah, tonight we're going to talk about some games, talk about some game days, and also do some bracket battling and swearing with O's. But also, I liked Dan's post in the Board Game Barbecue community, and I'd like to see what your guys' take on that was. So
give us a rundown on the post, Adrian, because I might or might not have Dan blocked on Facebook. So
I think he's got you blocked, so you don't see it. So it's I think
right.
It's that way around.
Okay, that would make sense.
But it was what was the best piece of advice you'd ever been given, and who gave that piece of advice to you? So, and I did the Yoda do or do not. There is no try, because when I was a kid, I remember that. I remember at Christmas, Empire Strikes Back being on, and I remember hearing that and having to ask what that meant, because I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. What is he on about? Because I was 9, and it got explained to me, and I was like, wow, that makes perfect sense. It was all of the world made sense in a strange way all of a sudden. So
one little green frog man, if that doesn't sum you up in one sentence, I don't really know.
And I think it was of a similar year of if I could offer but one piece of advice in life, sunscreen would be it. Do you remember that song?
That was what's his name?
To the class of 98 or whatever it was. That song, he starts off of the class of 98 and he talks about sunscreen, and he just lists off do good things, live life to the maximum. And he just talks through this song. It's an amazing song. I will find out the name.
I just ringing bells, but I don't know that I remember who it was.
So what was your piece of advice that you were given that you could sort of recommend or pass knowledge down to listeners?
Once said to me, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
That is gross. But also pretty valid.
Very sound advice.
It is. Yeah. It is.
I once saw this picture, and it's kind of you don't feel helpless, but it kind of puts things in perspective, because it was a picture of the Earth, and it said, and it was so a big picture, and it said the Earth before you made the mistake, and then it was the exact same picture of the Earth, and it said the Earth after you made that mistake. And I was like, oh yeah, 100%. People make mistakes every day, and they seem like the biggest issue ever. But I think about when someone comes to me and is like, oh, I've made this massive mistake, and I just go, it's cool. That's all right. I'm okay. You're okay. We're all still here. But I know sometimes those things just eat you up inside, and it's good to have that perspective to go, the Earth moves on. There's 6 billion people on the Earth plus, and they've got way bigger issues than something you said to someone or an action that you took. As long as you go and apologize to someone who you think you might have slighted, it's probably okay. That was a great little, wasn't so much a piece of advice I got, but just a nice little image to setting you back, I think. Bring you back to snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
I outside of my don't sweat the petty stuff and the sweaty stuff, but I actually, if we want to be serious, I did I can't remember what it was, like a management training or something like that at one point in time years ago in my career. And one thing that has always stuck with me was an exercise we did on control and influence, and it talked about understanding the things that are, that come into your life that you're in control of. And those things, it's worth putting that effort and, attention to, because you have control over those things. And then sort of, you went to the next ring in the diagram, and they were the things you could influence. So you didn't have direct control over them, but you may be able to influence them. So, it's worth putting a little bit of energy into that, but not a whole lot of energy, because, you can only influence them. You don't have ultimate control. And then everything outside of those two spheres was beyond your control and beyond your influence. So absolute waste of time stressing or, worrying about or getting involved in anything that you had no influence and no control over. And it, sort of taught me to really try and put things into perspective and not stress about that stuff, because that's just baggage then.
Is that kind of like
no
the
way you can
act local, think global kind of a thing? Don't like eco-warriors say that? Like
do that? I don't know. Never been
worry
one.
about what's in your local community. You've never been one. You're an eco-warrior, Mitch. You recycle and upcycle. But like, it's like, like worry about your community and everything else. And if everyone does that, then it will have a global effect. If we all did it, then it would, help everyone.
Well, yeah, I guess to some degree there's that in it as well. I mean, to say, I don't think I would say, don't worry about things that are global because you can't influence them or control them, because I don't think it's necessarily true. You can influence things on quite a broad scale. So, but there are going to be things that you can't influence and you can't control. So they're the things that you sort of can just say, well, it's not worth my hassle. It's not worth stress. It's not worth lying awake in bed at night, worrying about those things, because that worry is just completely wasted.
Fair play.
Yeah.
It's all a bit deep and meaningful for the start of our podcast,
especially
right?
for the three of us.
For us three. Oh, what happened? Let's go back to my sunscreen song, because that's
and the fart
a little bit
jokes.
more
Like,
sense.
where's the?
This is the start of this song, and I'll see if it brings it back to you.
First, tell us who it is and what the name of the song is.
It just says "Class of '99, wear sunscreen." That's all it says.
Right.
You'll recognize it. Look here.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of '99, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it.
And it just goes on from there with a little melody, and he just talks about different things in the world and all this other stuff. It's a great song. It really does hold up. So I'd like to hear some feedback about that in the Discord and Facebook community, because these guys look at me like I'm insane and they don't know what the song is.
That's our usual look towards you, though.
This is your usual look.
Look a bit mad.
It's definitely larger. Your eyes are much wider than usual. Like, what is he on about? So, anyway, what about some games? Who's been playing what?
Who's been playing what?
Yeah.
You go, Mitch.
I'll go?
Yeah, you go.
Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of games, and then I'll talk about one specifically. But I actually had a great night just last night. I went up to the Northwest Sydney Gamers Club, the Castle Hill RSL, with a friend of the show, Harry, and Lauren from the Discord channel. And we knocked over a couple of games. We knocked over Radlands, which is the first time I'd played that. Had to go Paladins. Connor,
first time
Paladins for me as well.
That's another one of those games that I really like, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
I really enjoyed it. I got absolutely obliterated and came dead last by about 100 points.
That's what I do.
And we played Hansa Teutonica.
Yeah.
Which was, I was kind of, channeling Sarah's beige to play that one, because it's a little bit beige, but it was a good game. And then I also played a half a game of Wonderlands of War with Julian.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so that was interesting as well. All games had potential. All of them were good, and it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. And although I should say there was one major disappointment to the evening, a major setback. The chicken schnitzel burger at Castle Hill RSL is no more.
What?
Oh, wow.
What? Hang
What
on a
happened
second.
there?
Wait
That's a
a
staple.
minute.
That's a staple to my diet when I go to Sydney.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was quite disturbing. But apparently they're in next month or the month after, they're opening a new burger restaurant inside.
Oh,
Goodness
wow.
me.
So all the burgers
dear.
have gone off the normal bistro menu, and they're going to be on the actual burger menu of the specialist restaurant.
That's amazing news, though. That burger places are
It
like
is
my
good
favorite
news.
restaurants. So
yeah. So it's a little step. It's a step backwards to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm okay with that.
I can cop that. I'm right with that.
But moving on from food and the game night, the game that I'm going to talk about today is a little game from our friends at Button Shy Games.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone's familiar with Button Shy Games, they do sort of wallet games that are usually only 18 cards, and they pack a lot of punch for what they've got in the packet. And the one that I've got recently has only just recently fulfilled from Kickstarter, and it's called Unsurmountable. Now, unsurmountable, even though that's not a word, and the word I think they were going for was insurmountable, frustrates me every time I read it. But it's about using your cards to build a mountain. So that's like the theme is you're a mountaineer and you're climbing up the mountain, you're trying to get to the peak. And each of the 18 cards have an action on it in the center of the card, and they also have sort of various different winding pathways that will lead either left, right, up, or down based on the card in its landscape orientation. Right. You start the game with what they call a base camp, which is like 5 cards that you have just across the bottom of your tableau, and then each turn you can do one of 2 things. You can play the card that's to the immediate left, so the one card that's on the far left of your base camp, into the mountain. Or you can discard any one of the other 4 cards into your discard pile in order to take the action that's written on it. And what you're trying to do is create the mountain in front of you, which is effectively a pyramid of cards. So you have 4 cards on the bottom, then 3, then 2, then 1 at the top, right? Or is it? Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
4, 3, 2, 1.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we count backwards.
That's the way. Yep.
As a VC math teacher, I can confirm that's how you count backwards from.
Good. I knew. I was in the presence of a teacher. I knew I was going to get it right. So what you do is, and that's effectively that's all you do. But what you're trying to do when you then put that card into the mountain is you're trying to build that structure, but at the same time, you have to, in order to win, have a path that starts at the bottom row, and you can trace it all the way up through all the rows, all the way to the summit, to the card at the top. So it becomes this kind of tile placement puzzle where you're trying to build these cards on top of each other to go all the way to the top. Now, obviously, there's a structure to it. You can't put a card onto the second level unless you have 2 cards underneath it to support it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't have a card like you can't put the summit card up there.
Can't be hanging off.
Same as like same of like Skulls of Sedlec.
Skulls of Sedlec.
Yeah, same sort of rules.
Yeah, you have to have the ones below it to build it up. Yeah, and so you read the rules and you go, oh yeah, this is pretty simple. This is a kind of fun little game. Let's have a go. The way that it works, and because you can only play that left-hand side card into the mountain, you can't play any of the other ones, it becomes a real challenge because quite often you'll be saying, well, I've got 3 cards on the bottom of the mountain already, and none of them have an up road that's going to go up to the next level. So if I play a card that doesn't have an up, I'm pretty much out.
Yep.
Or I'm going to have to find a power that will let me replace it, because you obviously have to have a route going up. Otherwise, you're not going to get in very far at all. So if you get the card that ends up on the left, that's one you don't want to play, then your only real option from there is to use the powers that are on each card. And so you're trying to find a power that will let you rearrange the base camp so that one card on the left is no longer that one card on the left.
Yeah.
Or
are the powers from the discarding, are they quite powerful, or are they just kind of like, they'll just better than nothing kind of a thing?
It depends on the situation, right? Because I'll give you some examples. So, like, I'm just looking at the deck now. You've got choose a card on the mountain, discard it, and activate its ability.
Yeah. Cool.
So, so it gives you the option where you're effectively discarding 2 cards there because you're going to discard this one to use its power, and then you'll discard the one off the mountain to use its power. So that will help you out if you've actually put a card in place and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That's not going to help me. That's a bummer. Well, then this one will give you the opportunity to get rid of that card. Then you've got draw a card from the deck and add it straight to the mountain. Well, that's handy because then I don't have to worry about getting that card to the left hand side of my base camp. Rearrange the cards in base camp. So
that's pretty good. That's powerful.
You can start flipping things around,
good, right?
Yeah.
Swap 2 cards that are touching each other on the mountain.
So if you didn't have a track on one spot, you could swap that, and then that's what I was going to ask you. So once the aim is to obviously have that track. Yeah. So you actually, to an extent, you don't want to swap too many around once you've got them in place, because then you've lost that track. Because I was looking at an image before of someone playing it, and I was like, well, hang on, they had built up sort of 3 or 4 of those stages, but they didn't have any connecting routes. It was just, I was like, oh, so that was obviously partway through. So do you have to continually have it connecting, or is there sort of like, all right, it's going to be disconnected, but by the end of the game, it's going to all be connected?
Yes. Yeah. So you don't have to have them connecting. You can make dead ends. You can do all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you have to have it to a point where, you're not going to win until you have a route connecting all the way to the top. Yeah.
And I'm guessing like if it goes like across 3, then up, then across 3, then up, and it does more of a longer path. Do you get more points for a longer pathway as opposed to a shorter?
There's no points.
It's just get to the end.
No points.
And
win
get
or
to
lose.
the end.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Just because it's hard enough as it is.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play.
I've played a few games. Not a lot. And they're great games too because it's only like 10, 15 minutes.
Yep.
Like they're pretty snappy, pretty quick. But yeah, I've failed every time because once you get to the point where you've discarded all your cards, there's no more draw cards to draw out. That's it.
Yeah.
You're done. So, and it's only 18 cards, right? And 5 of those start in your base camp. So, there's only 13 cards to work with, and you start discarding and your deck gets pretty empty pretty quick.
Yeah.
If you're using those powers. So you almost have to sort of really get some sort of benefit out of using the powers because discarding is quite significant in terms of the deck being the timer, right?
Pretty much. Like it's though they are so clever at doing that with their 18 card format, like with a small amount of card format. Those button shy games, they're always really tight as well. Even if they are multiple players, they're always tight games. There's never, from the ones I've only played, there's never like a runaway leader. You never get someone that's on, like, say, Tapestry, for example. Someone could get 500 points and someone else could only get 300. Still a great game. They had a great time, but someone has just bolted ahead, whereas I know it's a much bigger game. But, like, these games are small, short, easy to teach. Carry it in your wallet. Like, you could put that wallet in your wallet, really. It's that small. And it's so tight. It makes a really good tight game. And it's a really good game for like going to the pub with and things like that because there's no setup, there's no carrying anything. And it's better than say like, I know that Mitch has a bit of a problem with some of these games as well, but things like Joking Hazards and Cards Against Humanity where someone else gets to pick the winner. Like it's like, well, I thought my joke was funnier. I don't care what you all think. I was funnier. I went the darkest I possibly could, and it still wasn't the winner. That's not fair.
Not you.
No,
not
exactly.
You, really.
It's
I never saw that coming.
So, from the Frankie Boyle School of Comedy, basically. But, like, it's like, I love those games for what they are. And I think that it's one of those things as well that you could never have too many in your collection because they're cheap. They don't take up any of your shelf space, Mitch, which I know is a tight resource at the moment. Like, so,
100%.
They're great.
I'm almost to the point where I think Button Shy might be maybe the only publisher, well, not including Chip Theory games. And there's a comparison for you.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The most luxe product you can get in board games.
You couldn't get more
it's 18 cards in a plastic wallet. But I think they're probably one of the only publishers that I'm almost insta-back everything they do.
Yep.
Because they're cheap, they're proven track record. They just tick so many boxes.
Yeah.
That's so they do such a great job. Yep. It also comes, I should mention, with a couple little expansions. And I'm not sure if these are available in retail. So if anyone's out there is going to pick this up, I don't know if they come with the base game or if these were just Kickstarter exclusives. But there's one called Dual Peaks, which is essentially you add a couple of cards and then you extend the level of your base row. And it will build up to 2 peaks for the mountain.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
At the same time. So that's kind of cool. And then the other one is called the Big Climb. And that extends the mountain up to, I think, 4 levels. 1, 2, 3, 5 levels. So we already had 4 levels. This adds a whole nother level. So your base is now 5 across the bottom.
Cool. Yeah. Which gives you more options to leave from, but also more that you potentially have to connect.
Yeah,
potentially more combo tasticity, right?
Combo
and adding a whole row.
Yeah. Add 6 cards to it as well. So you'd be playing with the 24 cards then if you're playing the Big Climb version. But this has it's so snappy. It's really good. If you like that sort of spatial puzzle type thing where you're trying to work out how to connect those paths and things, this could be one of the. It's definitely up there in terms of their best, in my opinion. Just how smooth it plays, how easy it is to pick up, but at the same time, the challenge that it gives and the enjoyment and the fun the puzzle provides. So it was really, really good. If you get a chance, check it out. It's Unsurmountable by Button Shy Games.
And you mentioned in the past, Mitch, how, with your solo games, you like when either there is no AI or the AIs, simply flip over a card and do this action. So, I mean, this game is a solo game, isn't it? It's not. It's not a solo version of another game, or it's purely a solo game. So that sort of helps with that too. But it seems really cool. Like you go, well, it's a matching game, right? But it's a matching game with an extra wrinkle. So if you like games where and everyone played those games when they were younger. Like I think about Adrian. I don't know if talking the same language as you, but like, is it Pipeworks, like the old game on the computer where you used to have to get the pipes running from one end to the other, and it was like a liquid? I know, like Pipeline is one of your favorite games.
I don't know. I don't speak your language, buddy. I only speak Flobberdob, so just I don't know. I haven't heard of Pipeworks before. Is it spelt with an X?
It's a computer game.
It's cool. Is it spelt with an X?
Yeah, because it came in the 90s. Everything was like neon pink and green. Yeah. It was like super overproduced ad.
No, I haven't heard of it. I will look it up. I promise.
Yeah, but I got a bit of like what it. Yeah.
So it's Unsurmountable, right? Unsurmountable. I'll look it up because we've got a package coming from Button Shy Games with a whole heap of their games in it, and the Skulls of Sedlec expansions and stuff. Because that game was great. That's a fantastic game that just came from nowhere for us. So we've played it a heap, and it's just easy to play. We played with MJ's mum at Christmas. You can take it anywhere, like I said, multiple times. I'm going to take it to work actually in the next few weeks and teach some of the guys at work as on their Smoko and stuff. So that'll be quite fun.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking about Button Shy Games,
yeah, I know, right? They're not very shy at all. Just a stack.
For those that can't see, I'm just showing them my little stash, and the ones that I probably would
say they're your Pokemon cards. That's like you got your holofoil Charizard, and
the ones that I really enjoy. The Skulls have said, like you sort of talked about, this one here, which doesn't get a lot of airtime, is Antinomy, which is kind of like a set collection matching game.
This is like Connor's dream sets of games. They've taken words and just muddled them and jumbled them and not made them right. So it's just like he'll say them correct every time, whereas we'll be like insurmountable. I mean unsurmountable.
No, I was right.
Food Chain Island is another one which is really, really cool. Okay. It's about just moving cards around, trying to kind of pick cards up in a sequence, and then Sprawlopolis. I think a lot of people have heard of Sprawlopolis. As a really big hit. So they're probably my favourites in the Button Shy range. But they do have many more. Awesome little games if you have a niche or need for those sort of things.
I have got a slight bone to pick with you, actually, Mitch, about something that you're starting to upset me about and grind my gears over a bit. And I'm hoping that Connor will he'll either let me down or he'll be like my absolute legend. But you and your Batman Returns bashing is starting to upset me. I love Batman Returns, and you've watched it with Brad, your son, recently. And anyone mentions a superhero film or a bad superhero film is like Batman Returns. And I'm like, stop saying that. That's all we had. That's all we had. The ones that I'm talking about are like Catwoman or Halle Berry, when at that time we should have known better. We were at a stage where we were starting to do good films.
Yeah.
The running up the walls like a panther thing just got me. I was like, how did you do that? Where'd you get that from? The basketball scene.
Basketball? Oh, I couldn't remember if we talked about the basketball scene or not.
No, I don't know, but I don't know if I've spoken about this before. I feel like I'm in some sort of weird lucid dream about this because you upset me. Connor, do you like Batman Returns?
I don't dislike it. I'm much more of a fan of the 90s ones because they're just, especially the one with Jim Carrey as the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Like, I feel like that's a good sort of pulpish movie. And then the next one with George Clooney and Arnie, and that was like terrible. But you watch it.
Out.
I just remember being chill out. I just remember being a kid and being so excited because I reckon in like those a couple of years, Jurassic Park 2 came out and Batman and Robin came out, and they were like the two mega blockbusters. Yeah, that when you go back and watch them now, you're like, that's terrible. That is very.
I remember
bad.
I remember we were decorating our house, and it was like over the summer or something, and replacing a bunch of floorboards. And I think as a treat, because we'd just been sitting around the house for weeks on end while my family were renovating, we got to go see these films. One of them definitely was Jurassic Park: The Lost World, and then the other one was the Batman and Robin. And the look of sheer disappointment in my stepdad's face as we left, going, "That was amazing! Oh my god, did you see this?" He was just thinking like, "Whoa, what a bunch of crap! Like, what a terrible film!" But we were young, we were kids, and that's what we thought was great. But I could tell that he was not as enthusiastic as we were. So,
yeah, I wasn't young and I wasn't a kid 2 weeks ago when I watched Batman Returns. And it was an unmitigated disaster. The film is a train wreck. It has not aged well. It's terrible. I stand by that. I didn't like it at all, my friend. And I'm sorry to say that. I know you love it.
That's all right.
I don't like
it's like a nostalgia thing. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like you and Ben-Hur, like, that kind of thing.
Oh, look, let's be honest. It's not. Oh man, when that
Ben-Hur was the oldest film I could think about.
I was so excited. Yeah, no, it's not the first film I've ever watched that I've had fond memories of, and then watched it again years and years later and just gone, wow, what was I thinking? Yeah, I didn't realize I took drugs when I was 12 years old.
Absolutely.
Can't remember that.
Yeah. It's no ball and cup, is it?
Couple bolo.
So no, I didn't love it. And it was, but what I actually enjoyed was watching Brad watch it. Because he was like, he actually paused it a couple of times and looked at me across the room and went, "What the hell is this going on in this movie?" And I was like, I don't know. Press play.
I tell you though, like I would love you to show him and say, before this, all we had was that, and show him Batman 66. Sit down and watch the one where he's on the old, the helicopter with the shark repellent and all that, and just go, before that, this was how good it was. So this is definitely a step up.
Well, we did have the original Michael Keaton Batman.
And that was good, but that's still a bit, like it's of the same universe and of the same world. But
I'm afraid to rewatch that now because I do have fond memories of that one.
Your memories, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right.
But back to Games World for me. It's just my brain.
Are you
basically.
sure?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to let this die. But anyway,
this ain't
I actually got to play a game that is my favorite game of all time. I got to play it with, a new group of people. Someone's first time playing the game. Sean's first time. I got to play with Emily, who's only played the base game. I got to play it with Death, who's only played the expansion once. So I got to play it with the expansion as well. And then I got to play it 5-player. So I got to play Barrage with the 5-player expansion board for the first time ever, and I loved it. I have to say, it was a phenomenal experience playing that game 5-player. And considering it was a game that I thought playing it with 5 people could have potentially broken the game, and I would have been very upset to break Barrage and then not be happy about it. But playing it with 5 people, that the game was smooth. It went quite fast. I was quite surprised at how fast and how fast-paced it went. I think including kind of the brief teach at the start to sort of bring Sean up to date with some of the bits, it took maybe 3.5 hours total. But
that's pretty good for that game, because that's around about what it would play normally, right?
Yeah, I agreed.
2 or 3 players?
100%. Yeah, I thought that as well. Like, especially because he hadn't played the game. He'd only watched a couple of videos. So when we're like, okay, you've seen the 4-player board, but now we're playing with the 5-player board, and this is the expansion content, which there is no video content for, and this does that, and this is the external works, and you get these other buildings that you get to build and do these other powers, and there's a lot of information coming in. No one got overwhelmed. There was no like massive AP or anything in the game, just kept ticking along, and it was a really enjoyable experience. And I have to say, I think it might have been the best game I've played of it at 5, and I would like to do it again. Right. And it was one of those things where I thought it might be like a once a year thing, Mitch, or like a TI thing where you do a once in a blue moon. But I would have no problem pulling this out and playing this 5-player anytime. So
it sounds like it's if you've got the people that know how to play it, like I know Sean didn't, but he did his research and he's watched the video, and everybody else knew how to play. I don't. Would you jump into it with 5 players who hadn't played it before, though?
No, I wouldn't, and I probably wouldn't teach it with the expansion either. To be honest, it's a lot to go in. If you don't mind the extra time and people are all willing to go, if you're willing to say, look, if we play this with the expansion content, there is going to be a bit more of a learning curve, and it is going to take an extra 10 or 15 minutes for the teach to explain how these all integrate in. And also, people are going to have to weigh up that many more options in their gameplay. So that will slow it down a little bit as well. But you don't even have to, you can play it 5-player base game. That's another cool thing. You can just take those 2 expansion boards out and play it just 5-player, which is also quite interesting. But yeah, it didn't like slug along. It wasn't slow. It just kept ticking away, and everyone was having a good time. Lots of conversation going on. There was lots of silence as well. I have to admit, MJ was breaking the silence quite a few times with just a random joke, because you know what it's like when you're trying to do a move and then someone takes your spot just before you're about to take your turn. And you're like, now I have to think about my turn. And then you're like thinking about it. And then, you take your turn and away we go again. But it was, really enjoyable experience. I'm so glad I have the board. It actually adds another mini board. And when you click it all together and put all the expansion and everything, it does just make one giant, huge rectangular board. And the last little action spots go on the left-hand side, and they're actually wild. It's a wild action. So when you put your 2 workers there, you actually can choose from 3 or 4 different actions to select. So you don't have to just go, I'm going here to take that action. You can go there and go, right, well, which one do I want to pick out of the actions that are available? Which it didn't get used that much.
Can you go there if the action you want to choose isn't already taken?
So when you go there, there's only 2 worker spots. So you go there. And then there's also a 3 worker spots one, which will cost you 3 workers to do one of those actions. But that's it. Once the 5 workers have filled that up, you can't go there anymore. It was tight. I have to admit, like with the 5-player, even with the extra space on the map, because you basically get a whole other headlands and a whole other set of damn spaces to put things down. By the middle of the 3rd round, end of the 3rd round, it was like, people are taking your turn before you could take it a lot. Yeah. So you're constantly having to change and flip your strategies and do different things. And nobody was building the external works buildings, which gave you these weird kind of special asymmetrical powers. And they do give you victory points at the end of the game. They are worth different amounts of victory points depending on how hard they are to construct. So I just focused on that. And I think I built 4 of the 5, which gave me like 21 VP or something by the end of the game. So that was my own little space. And because I built there, I could use those action spots. And not just that, my XO, so my officer, her ability was I could put one worker on my own player board, and then I could activate any building that I'd already built. So then I had another, I could actually double down. I could do it on the board, and then I could do it on my own board, so I could do the action twice. So it was quite cool. But yeah, great game. Had a great day. It was, yeah. And obviously we finished the day off with, excuse me, Mini Express, because you can't not have Def come around and not play Mini Express.
I was going to say, that's
how I view our
you're just
relationship
wasting
these
his
days.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like literally, like he's like, I could bring this, I could bring that. He just listed off all these guys like Mini Express. He's like, yeah, I could bring Mini Express, and I was like, please bring it, because it's a game that it doesn't lie to you, man. We played 5-player Barrage, right? It went from 11 o'clock to like 3:30. By the time we'd stopped, had a bit of food, and milled about, and did the teach and all that other stuff, and then we played Mini Express, and it says 45 minutes, and it is 45 minutes with 5 players as well. It was great to play. So, yeah.
That's cool.
That was what I was playing. But yeah, Barrage 5-player, can't recommend it enough as an experience game. Like, kind of like, it's like On Mars. On Mars only goes to 4. Escape Plan goes to 5, and because it goes to 5, it's better to, you can get that 5-player heavy Euro game, or not heavy Euro, heavy enough Euro game. Teo goes to 4. When they add a 5th player, or if there is an option for a 5th player, it feels it's more accessible for a bigger group. Do you know what I mean? There's always awkward when you invite people over the house. You're like, well, I can only invite 2 people.
Yeah.
Because MJ wants to play, I want to play. So we can only have 2 people come over. But it's nice being able to go, we're going to play this big, heavy game. It's going to last a few hours, but we can have 3 people around, and that's really nice. So,
or you either go, I'll invite 8 people over, so we can have multiple tables going. Yeah, 2 tables going, but even that becomes a bit chaotic. But it's interesting. So, a game like Barrage with 5 people, and you reckon it went for 3.5, 4 hours?
Yeah, I think it was like 3.5 hours.
That's pretty good considering it's a fairly thought-provoking game. Like, I don't mean that, as in it gets you thinking about strange things, but it's a fairly mentally intensive game. My only issue is that with that many more people, I know you said there's more spaces, but just the chance of your plans absolutely falling into a heap just increases ever more. Yeah, and I think
so. I started on a neutral dam at the top, and I was like, I will build down there later on a cheaper one, but someone else built there then, and I was like, damn, now I have to change something else. So I did something else. Then I kind of not backed myself into a huge corner, but I definitely kind of hamstrung myself early, and I was like, I'll make it back, don't worry. And I didn't really. I came like 3rd, I think. But it was still like, oh, yeah. I think it was more my mistake as opposed to getting blocked out of a situation. I got stuck in my head, and I was like, oh, no, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing when I shouldn't have. I should have changed tact. So,
and who won?
Emily won, I believe, and Def came 2nd, and I came 3rd. But it was quite funny. We were playing in the middle of the game, and I think I took a spot that Emily wanted to go in, or someone had, and then she's like, okay, let me just math that out. And I was like, whoa, we don't use that word in here. We don't do math. We just keep going. Don't use the M word in this house. But it was good, and it was really fun. And I hadn't actually hung out with Sean for a while, and hadn't hung out with Emily apart from at the game days. I met Emily at our game days, and she'd actually been teaching Barrage to a group. So that's how I knew she liked Barrage, and I was like, that's a win. I know this person will play Barrage, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I really recommend it. I think that probably not this game day, but maybe the next one I might play it at the next game day with 5 players and give it a go.
Hey guys, it's Mike here. I'm here to talk to you about Advent Games. Have you bought a game from Advent yet? If you haven't, you definitely should. Dean and his team are absolutely amazing. They've got an amazing website, really heavily curated with all sort of different categories from deck building and rare games, and look, just go check it out. They offer $10 flat rate shipping all around Australia. They also directly support the podcast game days up in Sydney, so you can go by and say hello. Guys, go check out Advent. You won't regret it.
What have you been up to, Con?
What have I been up to? Yeah, well, I was only on last week, so I was able to talk about a couple of things. But I actually wanted to talk about something that initially I wasn't super comfortable with, but I've come to terms with it. And I know, Mitch, you've done this a heap. And I used to consider myself a board game collector, where I would collect games and collect games and collect games. And then I've had a few Kickstarters arrive. And like you said, shelf space has become an absolute premium. So I was thinking, all right, I can either do, I guess, the easy / more expensive option and just buy some more storage, buy Calyx or whatever. But I thought, no, I've got all these games sitting here that I'm not playing. I probably won't play. I've got another game there that I like more, and I would rather play that instead of that. So I'm actually going to give some games away to people. So there's my family who sort of will get first dibs on them, and then there's one of the local game stores who's starting to run a game day. And I thought, well, you know what? Surely this is better going to them than sitting in my cupboard. And I think a lot of me was like, well, what if that's the exact game that someone wants to play when they come over to my house? And that time hasn't come yet. Some of these games have been sitting on my shelf for years and years and years, and they haven't been played. Like, it's really, really bad, or I've played them once and sort of thought, oh, they're okay, but I'll just have it here in case someone wants to play, a game about racing around a dungeon to get dragon scales with mythical creatures. Like, that's pretty obscure. Yeah, you've got to be a certain type of person to want that. So, yeah, I'm actually going to give them away. And it's funny, I said to my family that, it's pretty much you guys get first dibs if there's one that you want, or if you've got one of mine and I haven't asked for it back, you can pretty much keep it because I clearly
didn't even notice it was gone.
Yeah, didn't know it was gone. And my brother said to me, he goes, is everything okay? Like, are you all right? You're okay. It's like, are you having a meltdown? I said, no, it's not. I said, in fact, this is the most positive I've actually felt about the hobby in a long time, because I'm almost like this burden of games has been lifted from me, and I don't feel like I've got to play these games that I don't want to play. And it's not a case of these aren't great games. Some of them are fantastic games, but I'm just not going to play them. So, yes, I'll do that. And, if there's I might even see if the Melbourne Board Game Library wants a copy of them as well. So for the Board Game Barbecue, so there's still some ones that are about. I'm happy to donate them to the Board Game Barbecue. I think, just talking to a couple of people about their experience with selling, I'm not super confident in pricing things and then obviously going through and selling them. So I figure, if I put them out there and people want to pay for postage or something, they can have it. I've done that before. But yeah, that's probably been the main focus in terms of games that I've had over the last week, and sort of just culling. And it's actually been a bit of a positive experience for me, which is kind of weird, because if you go, I'm getting rid of games, I don't know if that's a positive thing, but it is for me. I don't know, but how have you felt when you sort of, cut some of your games out of your collection, Mitch?
Like I've just amputated a limb. No. Look, it's funny. I can definitely relate to what you're going through at the moment, because I spend a lot of time thinking similar sort of thoughts. Right, like it's not necessarily about trying to get money back and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I find that when you sell games, or when you go through the marketplace, there's games that will sell in the marketplace, and that's fine. But there's games that just won't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how cheap they are or whatever. There's games that just won't sell. So if you follow that sort of process, you end up with all these games that you love, all the games that you kind of were like, these are good games, but I need shelf space, so I'll sell them, are gone. And then you've got all these games that you really don't like, and you can't move them. So you sort of have this weird love-hate collection, right, where there's nothing in the middle. But yeah, I've often thought about, and I've done it a couple of times, but I would like to be able to use those games to help promote the hobby.
Yeah.
So if there was some way that I could donate those games somewhere, like I've actually gone onto my private Facebook page a couple of times and sort of said to my friends list of people who aren't necessarily gamers and not necessarily into games, here's a bunch of games that I'm willing to give you for nothing. All you need to do is tell me if you want them, and they're yours. Now, to be honest, I don't get a whole lot of take up on that. As I said, because people aren't always in the hobby, but. And being completely honest, I would just give them away to strangers if I didn't think that there would be people out there who would just take them for their own personal gain and then try to sell them on at a profit.
And I guess that's probably a concern that I would have is if I was to give it to someone that was just looking at it, or that I can spin this for $1. That's not what it's about. Like, that's why I would like to give it to a library or to someone who I know is going to enjoy them, because that way I can say, I know they're going to play it, or, I think, I'm lucky in that I'm in a position where if I like a game, I can get it and it's not a massive strain on our finances. Whereas I know there's people who would love to get their hands on a particular game, but they can't put the shekels together, and that's not their fault. That's just the position they find themselves in. And if I can ease that for them or give them something for their kids to do on a rainy day when they can't go to the park or whatever, then that's all the better. But I don't know, just something that I thought would be good to talk about, and a little bit of a different sort of tack.
Different tilt. Yeah.
But I will just quickly mention one game and a bit of a story behind it. So are you guys familiar about the journey that Dinosaur World and Dinosaur Rawr had to take for me?
Yes.
Do you want to give the listeners a quick refresh?
Very quick refresh. Pretty much me being not checking my emails as thoroughly as I should. I missed the notification about the pledge manager for Dinosaur World and Dinosaur Rawr. So I didn't end up paying for the postage. So I contact Panasaurus Games and they go, oh, look, there seemed to be a bit of an issue, but that's okay. You're in Australia. We'll be able to source it from a local position. Anyway, there must have been a whole heap of Australians that didn't get onto it on time, and I was one of the latest ones to reply to that. So it ended up getting shipped from Germany. So I had this Ozpost notification from Frankfurt, and our friend Thomas, who lives in Germany, was like, Thomas, what are you sending me? Anyway, long story short, on my doorstep finally arrives Dinosaur World and Dinosaur Rawr, and of the two, what do you think I opened first?
Rawr.
100%. And I gave that a bill today. And I can see why you rave about it so much, and why Bobby Hill raved about it, because it is really, really simple, but geez, it's a lot of fun. That's just great. It's a great game. It's, I could see this. I could see anyone enjoying this game. And I guess what it does really well is the fun part of the game is a game that's important, right? Like building your park. That is important to your in-game scoring. It's not just a sub thing or whatever. It is building your park's important, and it's the most fun part. So, I think I know you guys have talked about it a lot on the show in the past. So, I don't know, have you got it out recently, Mitch or Adrian, or is it sort of?
I have actually. It's one of those games that sort of bounces around in my head that I go, I must get that out again. But there have been a few roll and writes. Three Sisters has kind of been hogging the roll and write limelight for the moment. But I think there's so many good games right in that genre now at the moment that whichever one you played last is probably the best for you at that time. Do you know what I mean?
Because they're fun.
What's that? Yeah, it's a bit of the Adrian syndrome, right? Because they're all so good that you get it out. None of them you're going to have a bad time playing. None of them you're going to walk away from and think, I didn't have fun or anything like that. So I just think they're all such high quality that whatever you play 10 minutes ago in that genre will be your current favorite. That's how close they all are.
Does it have the best dice in roll and write though?
I think they're thematic, right up there, because they're the amber, aren't they?
Yeah.
From the thing from the Jurassic Park movies, and I think that's great. Like I just like.
But also comparatively to your standard die, they're big.
Yeah, they're chunky,
big and chunky, and they're screen printed on, so they're really pretty as well. There's some hell of good dice. And it's
another one where it's like there's very minimal text apart from on the cards, so it's like Finn can play it. He understands it. It's all icons and DNA icons and drawing the squares. It's all laid out for you on the sheet. Yeah, actually, I think I might have to get that to the table again. Like when we.
And is there another game that exists that has multi-use dice? I.e., they have the side that is the DNA or whatever it is, the resource that it gives you on the dice, but they also have those little red pips.
Yeah, for the threat. So you've got to take it. And it was interesting how. And it's kind of similar because they have that same format in I haven't played Dinosaur World yet, but for Dinosaur Island, everyone has to take that much threat for the dice that's left in the drafting pool, which is great. Like, it makes sense. So you have that decision of, I don't really want that resource, but I also don't want to take 2 threat, because otherwise I'm going to have a disaster because I'm not going to have enough. So it's a great decision, like really simple, but a great decision to be able to do that. I just think it was a great. It is. It's funny, like a great little game, and for a game that I think they were just like, we're going to do a roll and write to get along with our big box game, and it sort of had a bit more legs than I think Dinosaur World has, which is interesting.
Yeah. I think Dinosaur World suffered from a little bit too fiddly.
Yep. Yeah.
Not even just that though, as well. Like, you have to remember that there was Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur Duelosaur Island. Like, they already had games
Dinogenics.
They already had even just Pandasaurus had made 2 games prior.
Yep.
Which shared not the same. They shared a little bit of the same
DNA.
DNA. But like, it's like they had a bit of that to them. So therefore, I think the roll and write, it's like they're the hotness. Like, worker placement was the hotness when viticulture kind of came out and stuff, and everyone loves roll and writes now because people are just pushing them to the extreme of how thinky they can be, but also how fun they can be, and how many different mechanics you can add to that with that little dinosaur puzzle that you're drawing the park on and stuff. Whereas Dinosaur World has already kind of existed, and there's similar games in a similar way, and it's a massive setup. That game has a lot of setup and a lot of pack down as well. So I just think that everyone just played the roll and write and fell in love with it, and I think that the Dinosaur World just hasn't been as popular. That's all. Because I mean, like, we've all got it, right? I mean, I don't know if you've got it anymore, Connie. You might be selling it by the sounds, but but like, we all giving it to the library anyway. But like, I just think that, I mean, Mitch, have you sold your Dinosaur World already?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't played mine apart from like the one night that we played it to play it. Like, whereas the roll and write, we've played it several times and taken it with us to game days and taken it with us places because it's just more accessible. It's generally just more fun. So,
and that's the reason why I did. Like, I enjoyed Dinosaur World. It's a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
It's really good. There's a lot of strategy in there, and I probably enjoy it more than Dinosaur Island.
Yeah.
But when I was looking at my shelves, and obviously the decision is more so about shelf space than anything else at that point in time in my life. Rawr and Write's a smaller box.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to get it out and play it more often because it's much easier to table.
Yeah, for sure.
So the 2 of them in the bracket battle, and Dinosaur World lost.
There you go.
Kenny Garrard bracket battle.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. I would go watch that. So, from my little bed that's in the corner that I sleep on when I go to City Game Days, I'll watch it from there.
Yeah.
No, you can't sit on it. That's my bed. I'll tell
you something else as well that I played just recently. Someone from the North Brisbane Gamers Guild lent me their copy of Kabuto Sumo, and me, MJ, and Finn played that, and that was fun. Like, I actually quite enjoyed it. I think me and Finn enjoyed it more than MJ. She wasn't as enamored with it as what we were, but I liked it. I had a good time with it, and it was kind of fun because when you it's the age-old thing of like the young kid sort of cheating a bit. Like, like he's only supposed to push it so it just goes over the edge, but it's like, I'll just push it in so it goes like 25 mil in and all the bits fall off, and I collect all those things, like all the extra bits. And I was like, hang on, you've just pushed your disc like halfway into the table. But that was a great little game. I can see why it was quite a popular Kickstarter for sure. And it's got really nice pieces to it, and the actual arena itself is really cool. So yeah.
Dan's been raving about that for a long time. Well, since he got it, yeah. So it's good to know you took someone else showing you the game before you believed it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not believing you. But because it was the most recent game he played, it is the best game ever.
Best dexterity game.
That's right.
It's funny with dexterity game because I've played not so much anymore, but I used to play flick 'em up with my niece, and it wouldn't matter the amount of times because the rule is you're not meant to like move your wrist. It's like all you do is you flick your finger. Like it's me and Mitch are both doing this action that no one can see. It's a little worm trick, but yeah. So you're not supposed to brace it on the ground. You're supposed to sort of flick it like that. Yeah, it's kind of like pulling a trigger finger or whatever. Yeah, but of course, it wouldn't matter the amount of times that you told her. She would just go and like knock everything over, and you'd be like, "Mate, what are we doing here?" Like, seriously,
now it's pack up time.
Yeah, it's pack up time. Well, you just ruined it for everyone, and now I'm done with it. But yeah, I think dexterity games and games of flicking, I sort of have this. They're so fun when you play them at the time, but you kind of go, "That was good. Maybe I'll pass it on to someone else now." You know, I thought about getting the expansions for Flick 'em Up and all that type of stuff, but in the end, what else are you doing? Like I know Dan explained the different powers in Kabuto Sumo really well, so go back and listen on the episode.
The powers are cool. Like that was more fun, and obviously, like I like the names to the actual like the Kabutos or the sumo little guys you're using because like I had a Cactus Jacked. And he was like, he had a cactus. He had a cactus bit. Like his bit was a cactus, like the shape that you pushed in. So it was cool because if you could get it straight on and really like line it up, it would just push miles out of the way. But he was also like ripped and real strong because he was Cactus Jacked. He was jacked up. It was really good. Like I like.
So in terms of dexterity games, you raved not so long ago. Well, probably was a long time ago about Men at Work. How does that compare dexterity-wise to Kabuto Sumo?
They're completely different games. Like, do you know what I mean? They really
are. You said it's the best dexterity game you played. So
no. I was just jostling with the theme. I honestly, if I had to pick, if I was to have one in my collection, I would take the Men at Work one because I think that is just that's that whole like handshake, like you know when you're just moving your hand around and you're doing something, you've got no problem. But when you have to focus on a tiny little thing and you're like, all of a sudden the hand just starts to shake for some weird reason. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why is it doing that? Like, and that has that tension in it, and that it's the tension of that Men at Work really brings. But yeah, anyway, I just want to say thank you to Michael for lending me that. We really appreciated it, and it was a good Sunday afternoon game for us. So. Cool. But in that, I think we'll just move on a little bit and talk a tiny bit about some of the game days coming up. We might just do them in date order. So if you want to go first, Mitch, and talk about Sydney.
All right, Sydney Game Day. It's not far away now. So this will release on Tuesday this week. And the following Saturday, April 9th, is the Sydney Autumn Game Day for 2022. Unfortunately, tickets are all sold out. We did have a little bit of an issue with our venue with some of the heavy rains we've been having lately causing damage to the room we usually use. But that's been resolved. Unfortunately, the room we have is a little bit smaller. So we couldn't sell as many tickets as we would hope to. That has been resolved. Ticket holders have been notified.
There's only 7 people allowed to go now, including Mitch. It's just Mitch and not quite 2 full tables. In a broom cupboard with the cleaners.
Welcome to the game day.
I feel like going into like a Harry Potter world, like for all the coats and stuff. Like, yeah,
that's not true. We'll still have a great day. There's still, loads of people that have got tickets, and we will have enough room for. And we're going to have Goat Wine Games will be there. They're going to have their pop-up stall. Advent are on holidays, so they won't be there. But yeah, it's going to be a cracker. There's game sessions that have been scheduled, so if you do have a ticket, you can go and check that out. We've got a few people coming to demo some games, so it's going to be a typical board game barbecue awesome day. And Sarah will be there too, because she's my fellow Sydney sider. So get along on Saturday, April 9th, or don't if you don't have a ticket.
Or Mitch isn't friends with you anymore, pretty much is what he was going to say.
But in theory, the next game day that we have, those logistics and venue spaces should be
resolved.
Normal, so we should be able to get a few more people in. So, Cool. And then Melbourne, Connor, your first Melbourne game day. You sure you've got a wedding to go
first
to or a
Melbourne-
baptism
No,
or something
I told you, all my christening of seafaring
Everything.
craft has been pushed back, so that's
Cool.
fine. So that is on May the 14th at the Caulfield RSL, and tickets are on sale now. So you can go and grab them. So make sure you go grab them. As far as I know, it'll be Dan, Mike, Jules, and myself, and then all the volunteers as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic. We were there, I think, for the first Melbourne game day, which, as Adrian pointed out, I wasn't there, so I can't comment on the venue. But yeah, I think it'll be a great time, and really looking forward to it and seeing all you guys. Sometimes some of you for the first time, which will be awesome.
Cool. And then we are in Brisbane as well on May the 21st at the Geebung RSL. We were there last time. There's a good space, good food, good live music between 7:30 and 10, which I loved. They were banging out Tina Turner and all this other stuff. I was in my element. You can imagine I had the right amount of Jack Daniels by then. So I was singing along and having a great old time. But also,
any snow? Did they play snow?
They didn't do snow. They couldn't really dance to snow. Like there was a like a I don't know, like a retirement function thing going on in the next room. So they were like doing line dancing and stuff. I don't think snow would have been
The
quite
nut bush. Were they doing the nut bush?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what the nut bush is?
No. I
What?
assume
gosh.
it's some sort of jig. But
It's the nut bush.
yeah. Sorry.
Listeners,
We're going to have to educate.
I will
Adrian
look
after
at this
this.
at the end. So yeah, there's that, and also we will have. I think I can say this right. We're having a teach of a couple of Martin Wallace's games by Martin Wallace himself, which will be pretty cool. Like it's pretty different.
cool.
No, we weren't supposed to say that, but anyway, let's just keep going. That was going to be a secret.
Yeah, sorry. That's for the secret Santa segment at the end, right, Mitch?
It sounds like it's Martin Wallace who designed the games, but it's just this bloke we met down at the RE last week.
No, it's Martin and Wallace.
Marty Wallace.
There's two dudes. It's just two guys, Martin and Wallace. They're
Martin
coming.
and Wallace.
Yeah, they're going to teach other games.
Just leave the comma out.
That's it. But yeah, that'll be pretty cool. It's something different. So yeah, that's really everything about that. So with that, we shall move on to the bracket battle.
Hi everyone, Conor here. Just want to take a sec to talk about one of our sponsors, 2D6 Games up in Brisbane. 2D6 support this podcast, and Dan, Dave and Joe are a great community-focused team who are always present at our game days. They offer free shipping Australia-wide, which is an incredible bonus. They also directly support the Brisbane Game Day, so if you're ever at a Brisbane Game Day, drop into their store and say hello.
And we have to resolve a bracket battle, which was quite a cool way we did it. We had one of the listeners who actually submitted this game have his, I don't know what the word would be, like his fight talk, his what is it, presentation read out for the Lord of the Rings Journeys to Middle Earth, which is quite interesting way of doing things because we hadn't been able to play it. And I actually was due to play it with Jonathan. I got home, I messaged him, was like, sweet, let's do this. He's like, yeah, no worries. I've just in the door. And I was like, cool, I got to have a shower and stuff. So I got all ready, sat down, went to download the mod from TTS and realized there is no mod. Where's the mod? And then I looked it up and looked on BGG and was like, it's made by Fantasy Flight. They don't allow their mods on TTS and they'd remove them all. So I did try and message a few people in the tabletop simulator community that I know that have some of these games still on file, and they just didn't have it, and they never got back to me. So yeah, sorry, I just couldn't get it to the table. So that oath of helping the community was just a sham, and it's a corporate's fault. It's not my fault. It's the man.
Totally
we have
your
to stick
fault.
it to the man.
Stick
right?
it to the man.
And it's Lord of the Rings versus Gaia Project. And what way do you think this one would have gone?
Well, I think my argument definitely would have swayed a few people.
Was it vote for Gaia Project because I said so? Is that your argument? Because that's your usual.
No, I only
that's your
saved
go-to.
that for Root. That's the only one I saved that for.
Okay. Well, I can tell you now, it was it was actually 227 Gaia Project, 96 Lord of the Rings. And I actually really respect what Jonathan said, actually. I believe it was in our Discord after the actual the battle itself. He actually said that if it just gives some people or give the game a little bit of press, like a little bit, someone might find the game off the back of it, then that's a good thing. And that's definitely what it's all about, is some of these games that might not get to the table all the time, getting to be spoken about and talked about in a different light. So
and can I just
think too as well?
Oh,
sorry,
I was
there you go.
As I am a massive Lord of the Rings fan and a big fan of campaign games, so this is definitely something that's been on my radar. It's just I have so many campaign games on the go at the moment, right? And it's, and the other thing that I think it suffers from, even though I'm a sucker for it, is Fantasy Flight. That means you get the base game, and then there's all this expansion content that they kind of sucker you into buying as well. So I think I've heard the product is fantastic, and they did change something around so it is a bit more exploration based as opposed to it being a timer. Let's get to the end quick as fast as we can, which sounds like a really, really good change.
All I was going to say was that I think now, as we sort of get further into the bracket, there's going to be, a lot of these games that are left are heavy hitters, big popular games that are going to be, have a lot of followers and things like that. So that's sort of been reflected in the scores here with Gaia Project. But there was, I think it was Ian O'Toole said that he was going to quit board games if Gaia Project lost this battle. So
yeah, I did see that, and I think there was like 4 other people were like, I agree, like I agree with you on that. Like I would sign up for that. So, but Gaia Project is just loved, man. Like the people that love it, they just love it, and it's like it's in a lot of people's top 10 games, I think, for a reason. So, and there's a reason why Conor plays it every week online. Because it's a great game. So, and it's got a great BGA implementation now, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. It does. So, I mean, it's fairly math heavy as a game itself, and it just does it all for you. So all that heavy lifting is done, and you can focus on your move and the importance of that move, which is really, really, I'm very, very grateful for.
Yeah. Well, the next bracket is actually a really kind of Gaia Project light, in a way, is Clans of Caledonia versus the chip-heavy chip theory games, Too Many Bones or Too Many Dice, as I like to say. So
too many dice.
Too many dice.
Too much
dice.
Crap. That's
it's
what
just
it is.
too many
It's
dice.
so
I got no idea what the dice is. Like, and the thing is every time you buy a hero, you get another set of dice, right? That's what happens. So you just got loads. Right. So
I don't understand where the negative is in this. I don't know what you're talking about. That's
hang
a good
on.
thing.
Mr. Just Cole had to sell 70 games to put one game on my shelf. So let's just go there when that turns up. So, Clans of Caledonia. I mean, I don't know if you've played it, Mitch, but Conor and I definitely have, right, Conor?
Yep.
I tried to play it once on BGA and I didn't know what I was doing. That's not unusual. It's quite common for me to not know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm very grateful.
That's why you haven't got that driver's license yet,
games.
right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, you played it with Def, right? I played it with Def in person, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I could see the comparisons to Gaia Project, but I do think it's a very different game. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I actually bought it. Was, you know what? Like, I'm maybe quite a while ago, maybe over a year ago, if I played a game and I enjoyed it, I tend to buy it before I finish the game. And I definitely hadn't done that for like a year until I played Clans of Caledonia. I played that and I bought it. And I haven't played it yet since I bought it, maybe like 5 or 6 months ago. But I was like, I just loved it. I loved playing it. I loved the mechanics. I loved the components. I loved the gameplay, the map. I played it against Dimmy and Def, and it was just great. had a great time playing the game. Absolutely loved it to death. And Shane as well. Shane T, I played with him. And yeah, I just bought it straight away. It was like quite hard to get as well. There's not many copies around. And it's like, it's one of those strange games that's in the top 50, I think, on BGG from memory. But it's not like your Gaia Projects or your Too Many Bones or your, Gloomhavens and stuff that are quite well. A lot of people have played those games. Do you know
I could
mean?
imagine
like
lots of people could have never played Clans of Caledonia or even heard of it before. Like, that's the type of game it is where, and it's funny when we were playing it, myself, Def and Harry play a lot of Gaia Project, and I couldn't believe that it wasn't made by the same people. You know how designers have overlap. Uwe does it, Rainer Knizia does it. They all have some sort of overlap. Eric Lang does it, but it's like, nope. It just so happens that it's similar, even though the themes couldn't be any further apart. You've got the edge of the Industrial Revolution in Scotland, and then you've got the space.
You mean in Gaia Project, you don't transform planets to produce milk and cheese?
You don't. No. Although I might as well be dealing with cheese while Def and Harry are dealing with ore and intergalactic credits.
But it's a great game. It's Spice. I can't even remember the name of the publisher. It's a small publisher that's a smaller run like thing from memory. Karma Games is the one that is on here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know them for printing anything else. Like, there's nothing else that if someone says to me Karma Games, I don't immediately go, oh well, they made this and they made that. So they're not like a huge, publisher. But it's a great game, and I would definitely implore people to try it out, and especially if you're interested in Gaia Project, but you want something a bit lighter. And it definitely is lighter, and it's more accessible for more people. But it has that stock market thing in it, Connor, which I actually think is quite hard to judge. And it's one of those things where you got to time everything right as well. Like, you want that stock market to be low when you're buying, but you want it to be high when you're trying to get rid of stuff. And it's really good. Like, really, really enjoyed it. So,
I also really, really love Too Many Bones. Let's put that out there. I think it's funny. Like, as much as I enjoyed Clans of Caledonia, I think my vote is actually going to Too Many Bones for this, because in terms of money invested too, that definitely plays a part, because I've got a lot coming very soon. I hope so.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys will be surprised by this, but I'm leaning towards the Too Many Bones side as well.
Shock horror. Could knock me down with a feather.
Yeah, look, I did spend a bit of time this afternoon doing a pros and cons list. And when I say a bit of time, there wasn't 2 or 3 seconds. Because Too Many Bones, for me, it's my number one game of all time. So, of course, it's going to be, my choice out of these two. Why? Because it's a fantastic game. There's nothing out there like Too Many Bones in terms of the componentry, the lore, the way that the game plays, the dice, the other dice. There's those dice that are in it.
It's so good.
I have to say as well, I agree with you on that. There's no one else that's done anything like this. There's no one else that's gone like, let's just make it all neoprene and make the cards out of plastic, and let's just make everything dice, and it's just, and the way the action selection thing with the dice and how you upgrade your abilities and build your little player sheet like that. For a game where like you can just play the one mission and then you don't have to play it again, do you know what I mean? And you could do that mission again if you want, and you set that up and go from there. Like that, they do that so well, and you don't feel like you don't feel the pressure of it like a campaign game, if you know what I mean. Like, even though it is, and you can just follow the stories and stuff and go through it, I feel like something like, say, Pandemic Legacy, you feel the pressure to go from start to finish it. Whereas I think in Too Many Bones, it has the less of that. Almost like Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, all of those missions, you can play them in any order. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as I'm aware, Too Many Bones is the same, right? You don't have to do them in the same order.
So you can do the one mission, or you can do 3, 3 of the, can't think of what they're called now.
They're like scenarios or episodes,
the big bads.
Yeah, that's right.
It's good like that. It has that option to do the campaign or not to as well. So, and it's got like Connor said, the amount of additional content for it as well. And it's not even like expansion content so much, because it's like you might get another character. And that's one of the boxes is just grabbing a new gear lock to add to your team of gear locks or whatever. Too Many Bones is fantastic. I've spent way too much money on it, as has anyone who's pretty much got into the game. I think it's a bit of an addiction there, but it's great. So get out there and vote for Too Many Bones, people, because it needs to win this bracket.
Because Stone Cold said so. Right?
That's the bottom line.
I thought that's what he was going to say as well. He looks a bit like Stone Cold sometimes with his beard.
So he's smashing Coke Zeros above his
Stone
head.
Cold didn't he just win the WWE something like Royal Rumble thing this week?
Surely not. He's like 100 years old.
He came back. He did it. I'm telling you. I'm sure I saw that. Maybe I dreamt it.
Wow.
But the bracket battle probably. The bracket battle is sponsored by Game Toppers. Please visit GameToppersLLC.com to see all their play mats and different things. We actually have some of them at the game day. In the different game days, they're actually pretty cool play mats with really cool different patterns on. So check them all out. And with that, I believe we shall move on to the oaths. The oaths. Guys, what's going on? Talk to me, because I haven't been on episode with you for a while. So, Mitch, how's your oaths looking?
Man, smashing them. Like, oaths and me are just like
wheat pigs,
knocking them down. Yeah, they're like little ducks. Little ducks at a rifle gallery. That's what they're like. Just pinging them down. So my last oath was to play Marvel United X-Men, which I received a few weeks ago. And I can tick that box. I did achieve that oath. Marvel United is an interesting little game for me because there's not that much to it. It's very simple in terms of the mechanics. You draw a card, play a card, sort of thing. You use the abilities that are on the card that you played, and you get to use some of the abilities on the card that was played prior to yours. So that's where the co-op sort of thing comes into it. And so, I think it's good. It's a reasonably okay puzzle for anyone, family-wise, kids, you name it, anyone can sort of get in and play it. I've played it a few times with my kids, but I really like this game solo. I like it better solo than I do when I've played it with my kids, because you take the three heroes that you're playing, you shuffle all their decks together.
Yeah, cool.
And then you go. So you are then controlling all three characters, and then you have the control over how to play that out in the whole puzzle and how you interact those characters together. So
it's funny you say that, because the loop when you play solo is the same. So I don't know in terms of the depth of the characters or whatever, but the loop has each character has its own power and its own deck of cards to start with. But that's what you do is you would play with your own deck of cards, but because you're playing solo, you can pretty much play with however many you want, and then it will scale. But you shuffle them all together, and it actually kind of gives you some really cool intrinsic combos, because I wouldn't have necessarily done that if I hadn't known what was in your hand when we played, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
But you saying that Connor has some serious gravity because you like people. Mitch saying it doesn't mean anything because he likes playing on his own anyway. But on a serious note, though, playing it with the other people, is it still good though? Even though you prefer it solo, it's still good.
It's still good, but it's just I find it has just a little bit more depth solo.
Yeah,
because of that reason.
Because you have to think it out.
You have decisions about, okay, do I want to activate Wolverine this turn? Am I going to play Archangel? What are the sort of strategies I'm going for? Whereas when you're playing it by yourself, you just have your own cards. It's always Wolverine if you're playing Wolverine or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think the decision space opens up a little in solo, which is strange because usually it's the other way around to a degree. Going from multiplayer to solo. But anyway, so on that note, I played it. I played Wolverine and Colossus, which is the combo of combos, right? You got to play Wolverine and Colossus, and Archangel, who was just super cool with his metal wings after he was converted by what's his name?
Apocalypse.
Mental Blank Apocalypse. Yeah. So that was cool, and we played against the Juggernaut, and the Juggernaut did what the Juggernaut does. And that's another thing that's pretty cool about the game, is because even though the mechanics and things are fairly simple, they still sort of fit the theme. So the Juggernaut, what he does is when he does his bam power, he moves like 4 spaces around the board, which is like almost halfway around the board, and every space that he passes through takes damage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, that's the Juggernaut, isn't it? He's just going to barrel through everybody, just smashing through everything. So it's kind of really thematic. And he smashed through all of us, and we died. So I think I got 2 out of the 3 objectives before I could take it. No, I think he had about half health left. So but either way, it was hard, which is good because I like that in solo games. It can't be too easy, and I enjoyed it. I will say one other thing before I move on. Because I just picked up the Kickstarter, I actually got the playmat as the add-on. And if anyone's out there listening, they can be hard to get a hold of, but 100% if you like this game, get the playmat. It makes such a massive, massive difference in this game because it's done in a round sort of format, and the locations are placed sort of in a circle, and then when you play the cards, they play sequentially around the whole lot in a circle. Cool. So just having that playmat there to be able to play them out in their spaces and stuff, it makes such a difference. So if you get a chance to grab a hold of one of the playmats, be it the United one or the X-Men one, do so. They're amazing. Cool. So that's a tick in the box for my oath.
Well done, mate.
My new oath is going to be a difficult one, because I've recently been getting into some wargaming and things like that, and I've picked up a couple of GMT games lately, and I'm going to change it from what I've written in the sheet there. I played through a tutorial of a game called Navajo Wars, which is a historic recreation of the trials and tribulations of the Navajo people during the years around from like the 1600s.
Is that,
I think, through
the French Indian Wars? Is that what that's referred to, or no? Is it more?
No, it's more
like colonization,
the southwest. So you've got the Spanish.
Yep.
In the early years, the Spanish are the ones that they're sort of dealing with, and then the Americans come into it later on.
The Dan age.
Yes, right around his sort of youth. That's right.
Mitch's eyes when he clicked. When Mitch's eyes clicked, he was like, I know where you're going.
Yeah, Dan age. Yes, indeed. But yeah, so it's I played through the tutorial. This game is maybe the heaviest game that I've actually played and got through. It's got this really detailed tutorial that they suggest you play through the tutorial first, and it like holds your hand the whole way, even to the point where the deck is stacked in a very particular order. So every time you do a card draw, it knows which card you're drawing and will tell you to do for each card. So it really explains it all the way through. So in terms of the instruction level, it's fantastic. It took me 3 hours to get through the tutorial. So it's fairly significant. But I don't want to, have done the tutorial and then go, oh, that was great, I'll put it on the shelf and I'll come back in 6 months and I've totally forgotten the tutorial, so I need to do 3-hour tutorial again. So my oath is to hopefully get to a point where I can play the game without the tutorial in a normal fashion, so that I can actually learn it to a point where I can play it without having to read the rulebook constantly. So I would swear that I will endeavour to learn Navajo Wars to a point where I can actually play it without a tutorial.
That's a cool one.
It is very good. I like it.
And yourself, Connor, what's been going on?
Well, it's a bit of a Marvel theme, because my oath was to play the it's a villain expansion. So for those of you who don't know how the Marvel Champions, I guess their product model works, is they have the campaign expansions, which are the sort of big box expansions where you get a couple of heroes and then a whole campaign you can play through in a few different player cards. Whereas this one here is just a villain, and it's the Hood. So the Hood is kind of an interesting one, because a lot of the times you fought things like you fought the Red Skull and all the Red Skull's minions, or you fought the Guardians of the Galaxy have gone against Ronan, and then in the last one you go against Thanos. So you're fighting against these big bads, whereas the Hood sort of brings things back down to a street level. And what the Hood is trying to do is he's trying to build his empire. So what he comes with are all these modular sets, and they don't say which ones you should include. They give you a list and say these ones go from easiest to hardest, it says 9, and you need to pick 7, because as the game progresses, and depending on which card you draw out, you will randomly select one of those 7 modular sets to shuffle into his cards that he can then use against you. So that simulates him building his criminal empire and hiring more and more goons. So it's really, really cool and quite thematic. And that's what I've been looking for with some of these expansions, because what tends to happen is, people sort of work the game out, they clock the game, so they want harder scenarios, and it's, just throwing minions at you, or some crazy setup, so you're already under the pump. Whereas this one seemed to get gradually more and more difficult. And while I was able to beat him, which was great, I actually had a lot of fun, and I think I was pretty lucky because I used 2 heroes I'm pretty familiar with. So I used Thor, who might be my favorite hero in all of Marvel Champions, because he's just after you set him up, he's just sick as. And then I used Flash Thompson, which is Venom, and he is fantastic to be able to get threat off of it. And I just drew the most incredible hands that I could have wished for at the beginning, and it just set me up. So I think if things had gone a little bit differently, I would have been in a bit of trouble. But in between that experience and the fact that the Hood just gave you another way of looking at the game, I really recommend that if you're looking for more content, but you don't necessarily want to invest in some of those big boxes, that you go for the Hood, because it was just really, really fun. So yeah, that was awesome. I just loved getting it out again and playing it. It one of my favorite games at the moment, and I've got more Marvel Champions stuff that I can poke a stick at, so I need to start tuning through it a bit more. So there's that one. But my next oath it's a little bit of a cheat, because we've already put it into play, and Def has been raving about this game to me, and that's Marco Polo. So I don't know if either of you two have played Marco Polo yet, but he just keeps carrying on about it. He's like, you would love this game, So by the next time on the show, Icon and I swear they will have played through Marco Polo.
I've had a couple of opportunities to play it, but I've declined because we've got Darwin's Journey coming.
Yeah,
and apparently
right.
they're quite similar. And that's actually like shipping now, like on its way, I believe. MJ actually bought it, not myself, but she did say, it's coming pretty soon. So cool. Well, that's you guys. My previous one was to paint some Kingdom Death minis for a game night, which we actually have on a Wednesday night now at the house for Kingdom Death. And man, that's a good game. Connor, you would
stop
love
talking
this
about
game.
it. You're not allowed to talk about it.
But like, it's I'll tell you a little brief about the last game. We actually fought the lion again, because you fight the lion, then you fight him again. It's like the sort of prologue, then you hunt and fight. Anyway, we fought him. MJ died, so MJ was out. And when you're dead, like you're dead, that's it. You died. But it's kind of lucky because at the start of the game, you haven't really got much to lose, if you know what I mean. You haven't got like a heap of items or anything that you really care about too much. But what happened, it was really close and it was getting quite tight towards the end, and his AI deck was pretty well depleted, and we just had to wound him twice to get these cards gone. And it was my turn to go. I got behind him in the sweet spot to just jab him in the buttocks from behind, because he can't see you. So because he can't see you, you get like a +1. So I rolled the dice. I got 2 lanterns, which is 2 10s. And I was like, yes, epic. And you know what it's like when you roll 2 10s, then you get the next 2 cards, which are the cards that wound him in the different locations. You know that you just roll 1s after that. Like, that's what happens. You get the hits, and then you roll the other dice, and then you get the 1s. But I actually got a 9 and a lantern. So it was a crit and a hit. And the hit killed him. But if the hit hadn't killed him, the crit basically says, like, I slide under the lion's belly, grab my stone, and just basically slash his stomach open as I slide underneath him and just kill him instantly. So even if he had full health, if I had done that at any point during the game, that would have instantly killed that boss. And we then went on, everyone started calling me the Lion King, so my character's now we're called the Lion King.
Simba.
And then I got a spear, which is called like the King's Spear, and it's got like a claw or something on it from the lion, because we actually did the settlement phase and built our items and our weapons, and the first thing was we just put a bunch of stuff into that spear, because the spear can actually attack from like a couple of spaces away, because it's a long reach weapon. So yeah, my character's now called Kate the Lion King, so it's pretty cool. And absolutely love the game. Like I cannot stress enough how I need that pre-order to come out for ordering the expansion content, because I'm just going to go to town. I am going to town, baby. I cannot wait. I don't care anymore.
It is a great feeling, isn't it? Like I remember talking to you and you said how much you were looking forward to playing this. And that is such a great feeling when you've been looking forward to a game, because things get built up over Kickstarter, or we watch videos or whatever. You're like, yeah, this game's going to be my game. It's going to be my jam. And sometimes they arrive and it's not quite what you're expecting. 100%. But that feeling of this is exactly what I wanted and more. Yeah, it's just such a great feeling to have. And
it really is. That's exactly what it is. It's what I wanted and more. And the group, it's like the group make the game as well, like always. But we've got a really good group that are all sort of similar mindset. And, you know, I mean, the game's got fecal salve in it that we're passing around the table and trying to give to different players so you don't have to have it. But it actually helped. Like, at one point, Haig rubbed the fecal salve over himself so that he was not a threat to the monster, so he could get close to him without it detecting him as a threat. And it helped us win a fight. Like, it was great. It's such a good game. And yeah, at the end, when you've got all the resources and you're crafting all the stuff, it's like, this is just brilliant. This is so cool. Like, we're going to craft. And we had like whiskers from the lion, and we use that to make bowstrings and make a bow. So MJ's now got a bow and arrow. I've got the spear. We've got a couple of katars. Like, it's just really cool. So yeah, that painted those minis, but we haven't used them yet because they're like the next stage up. So we'll use them in the next session. But then when we finish that next session, we'll need the next ones already.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need like paint 3 in advance.
Yeah, we actually sort of doing a bit of a schedule, me and G Money, so that he paints the next boss and I'm painting the next minis to go in for the next thing. And all the weapons that come with it are all interchangeable. So like, I will have the spear, and you know, Haig will have the katars, G Money will have the harp, MJ will have the bow and arrow. Like, it's all like there to be built, and that's the best thing about it. And in saying that, I have neglected a game for quite a while, since before Christmas. And Connor, you brought it to light recently about Jaws of the Lion. So I have arranged for my Jaws of the Lion group to come round, and we are going to try and play through 2 to 3 scenarios of the Jaws of the Lion this Saturday. So that is the plan. So yeah,
so much fun.
It's great.
I can't wait to see my family again at Easter and play with them again, because I
might try and paint them as well, but it's a bit of a rush, so I can't promise that, but I'll try and see how we go.
The good thing is it's 4 minis.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
You know, compared to what you're doing at the
27 hours for me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still fine.
We just paint 1 red, 1 blue.
Yeah. Pretty much.
The other one you can leave.
Just dip it in.
The other one, whatever.
Done.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because I like the combat system in that, and I like how the card play works in that. It's not dice, which is like Kingdom Death. There's a lot of dice, whereas this is more the card play and stuff. So it'll be nice to get that to the table again with our group. But yeah, that's really everyone's oaths. And was that 3 for 3? Like
3
all
for
successes,
3.
right?
3 for 3.
Good.
Boom.
Pretty good.
Nathan,
we were losers. So, but yeah, just want to have a massive shout out and a massive thanks to our sponsors and our Patreons. And if you want to sponsor this podcast, you can do it by going to Patreon.com/BoardGameBarbecue. Also, you can sign up to get exclusive access to our podcasts and different episodes. We actually had a movie night the other night where a few of us watched The Running Man, which was amazing. Oh, wow, that film, that holds up. I don't care what, you can laugh all you want. It holds up.
No.
It holds up till about 32 minutes in, then it takes a nosedive into 1982. That's basically what happened. But at the start was good. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Great film. I still love it. because it's nostalgic things. But anyway, there's also plenty of other ways to sponsor the podcast without donating. You can leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. You can leave ratings on Spotify. You can join our community. You can go on our Facebook community and share your pictures and different things like that. We also have Instagram and YouTube. And of course, the Discord community is fantastic. That's where we talk about games and what's going on and different things from the show, like our discussions about things like Batman Returns being pretty good for its time, that kind of stuff. That's what goes on Discord. So, but yeah, a huge thank you. And all the links will be in the show notes. So thank you very much. Thanks, guys, for tonight.
Pleasure, as always.
Thank
you too.
It's always been fun. You know what? We need to take a moment to just go, we made it.
I can't believe it did just capitulate. Like, we actually made it to the end.
When we pressed record, I was sure we weren't going to get 15 minutes in without absolutely just falling apart.
We got rid of all the shenanigans and stuff in the first 45 minutes before we hit record.
Right.
And then we got into business mode, and that's okay.
Yeah. But I've seen you. I thought as soon as you look up, we were going to go straight back into...
I did do that at one point. I was like, I put my hand over my eyes so I couldn't see the webcams, and I could just see my other screen because I knew I was going to start laughing again. But anyway, thank you very much, and good night. Bye.
See you later.
Okay, here we go. Excuse me, just to clear my throat before I think about what we were talking about before. I'm the worst. You're the worst.
Our secret segment is going to be us giggling for 30 minutes.
What have we done? Okay. I'm just going to breathe again.
100% your fault.
I think it's 100% my fault. I knew I was good. Then when we started, that was at Connor's point with his tears out of his eyes. This is the shambles. Okay.